The PlayStation 6 is already on the way. Like what? Feels like it was just yesterday that the PS5 and Xbox Series dropped, but it's already been 5 years. Is time flying? Or did this generation just never really happen? Can we already call this the most forgettable generation in gaming history? Let's talk about it. Welcome to Games Insights. I'm Arthur. And alright, let's go. The console war has been over for a while now. Each company's doing its own thing, and the console life cycle is usually about 6 to 7 years. Just like it was with the PS3 to PS5 and Xbox 360 to Xbox Series X and S, the logic says that by 2026, maybe 2027, we'll already have a PS6 and a new Xbox. But did we even enjoy this generation? I don't know about you, but for me, it feels like it didn't even really start. The PS5 and Xbox Series X and S have been on the market for 5 years, but it feels like they didn't leave any mark. Today we're going to figure out why, and trust me, you're going to be disappointed with Sony and Microsoft. But before that, give our humble channel a little boost by subscribing, so I stay motivated to bring you more and better videos. It's awesome to have you here, my friend. Let's go. The truth is, this generation just didn't prove itself. If we stop and think about it, it feels like it never really kicked off, and there are several reasons for that. The first big issue was that the consoles didn't justify their existence. Let's be real. What have the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S delivered so far that really makes the investment worth it? Since launch, we've seen games that could run just fine on a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One X with barely any loss in quality. That's because, unlike past generations, the tech jump was way smaller. If you take a PS1 game and compare it with a PS2 game, the difference is huge. From PS2 to PS3, the graphics took a massive leap. From PS3 to PS4, the level of detail, lighting, and gameplay smoothness completely changed, but from PS4 to PS5. The main difference is in resolution and frame rate. Games run in 4K with HDR and ray tracing, which improves the look but doesn't revolutionize the experience. We don't get that feeling like we're playing something truly new. Another thing that killed the impact of the new generation was the lack of big exclusives. If we look back, there was always that game that made the console worth it. The PS3 had The Last of Us, Uncharted 2, Metal Gear Solid 4. The PS4 brought us Bloodborne, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, now. What's the PS5 game that makes us think? This is why this console exists. Hard to say. Most of the games that really blew up so far also came out on PS4 and Xbox One. That totally weakens the feeling that we're in a new generation. If you can play the same game on the old console, why drop cash on a new one? And here's another problem. The pandemic erased time. When the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S dropped, the world was at a standstill. A lot of people couldn't even get their hands on the consoles because there was no stock. Manufacturers couldn't produce chips, which made the prices shoot up. For the first 2 years, only a few people had access to the new generation. Developers realized this, and instead of focusing only on the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, decided to keep games compatible with the old generation. The result? This generation switch felt more like a hardware upgrade, not a revolution. And there's more. The way games are made has changed. Before, developers had to squeeze every drop of power from the console to deliver impressive experiences. That's how we got games like The Last of Us on PS3 and Red Dead Redemption 2 on PS4, which used every inch of the hardware to create something truly memorable. Now, with consoles more like PCs and with constant updates, developers don't have to push the hardware as hard. That means games aren't being designed exclusively for the new generation, but rather as a middle ground between what already existed and what could come. And when we compare this with past generations, it becomes even clearer. On the PS2, the evolution of games throughout the generation was insane. The first titles looked like PS1 games with better graphics, but by the end, we saw things like God of War 2 and Shadow of the Colossus, which felt ahead of their time. On the PS3, we started with clunky games but finished with The Last of Us and GTA 5, which showed the max of what that hardware could offer. On the PS4, we started with games still kinda resembling the previous generation, but ended with Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Last of Us Part 2, which seemed almost impossible to run on the hardware of the time. Now on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, it feels like there's been no evolution. The jump from the start of the generation to now is practically non-existent. if we grab a game released at the beginning of the PS5 and one released now, the difference is almost unnoticeable. This didn't happen before, but what about the future? What can we expect? Well, historically, the last years of a generation have always been the best ones. At the end of the PS3, we got GTA 5, one of the greatest games of all time. At the end of the PS4, we had The Last of Us Part 2 and Red Dead Redemption 2, which took storytelling and immersion to the next level. Now, at the end of the PS5, we already know GTA 6 is coming. Maybe, finally, this generation will have its moment to shine, but so far, the truth is, it's been pretty dull. Do you feel like this generation really happened? Or was it just an extended version of the PS4 and Xbox One? Drop your thoughts here and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos about this crazy gaming transition. Looking at the past, there's a bit of hope. The best games from previous generations came at the end of them, so maybe there's still time for this generation to prove itself. But the way things are going, the PS6 is right around the corner. Let's see if this generation wakes up before it ends, or if it just fades away and see you later, alligator.